I don't even know where to start from all of the things that have been said that are just wrong.
Voices blending, melodies ascending, harmony in the air. Our songs are never ending. In the barbershop we create magic. Brad and John show, yeah. It's pure classic. No instruments needed, just our vocal range. Notes flying high, it's our musical exchange. Tracy's station may try, but they can't compete. Our barbershop style, it can't be beat. Oh, the harmony of voices, so sweet. In the barbershop of life, our tunes will repeat. No need for instruments, no need for a band. Just the Brad and John show, the finest in the land.
John, when you hear those melodious tones of the barbershop quartet dudes, what day is it?
Well, we know that it's not Saturday. We know that it's not Sunday. I'm going to go out on a limb and say it is Friday, Brad.
John, very good, very good, very good. It is Friday, the best day of the week as far as I'm concerned. That is your voice of John Combest. And I will spell his last name, Combest. You need that spelling because when you type it into your computer, you're going to put a John in front of it, a Combest after it, a .com on the end, and you're going to end up in his website, which is this incredible website, which he's done for, 23 years now? Did I get that right again?
Yeah, 23 and change, I think, Brad.
Every single day of his life. And John and I once had a discussion about people say they do things daily. Well, daily would be Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, right? Daily, every single day,
yeah,
right?
Would mean 7 days a week, for sure.
And John takes that to the extreme where he does it daily, monthly, weekly, and yearly, never misses a day. Now, what's on his website? All these links. It's like the Missouri version of Drudge Report back in the day when Drudge actually did it, and he wasn't after Trump. But now the new guys that own it are always mad about Trump. But anyway, that's a whole other story. Anyway, John puts together sometimes 30, 40, 50 different articles, sometimes 15, 20. But what we do is John distills it down and he brings us what he feels are the top 3 stories in the entire state of Missouri. We bring this guy in. His name is...
I'm Casey Kasem.
And we start with...
In third place...
The theme for all 3 stories today, Brad, will be diversity. It'll be tolerance. And we'll start story number 3 with a series of events that I'm guessing is pretty much going to become a monthly thing. Anti-Trump protests. Last time we had the No Kings rallies across the state of Missouri. Yesterday, we had a series of protests called Good Trouble. They were to honor the 5-year anniversary of the death of civil rights activist John Lewis. He died 5 years ago on July 17th. So yesterday, the anti-Trump crowd got together for what they called Good Trouble protests. Now, to be clear, Brad, because words mean things, as the great Rush H. Limbaugh III used to say, words mean things. And Fox 2 had a woman named Denise Lieberman on, and she was underscoring the fact that yesterday, in her mind, it was not a protest, but it was a celebration of voting rights and fighting for voting rights. Denise Lieberman, by the way, formerly head of the ACLU, the American Commie Lovers Union, in the state of Missouri. She now leads a group called the Missouri Voter Protection Coalition. You've seen her before, Brad. She's a diminutive woman. She's kind of a gnome, I guess you could say, of the left. Once appeared at a John Combest-sponsored political debate at Washington University in 1998. I tie that in for a specific reason. Anyway, Denise Lieberman says they're not protests. Everybody else at the protest says they are protests. And the friendly mainstream media also calls them protests. So I have a couple pieces up, Brad. As you can imagine, liberals that are mad about Trump, they congregated at the Missouri Capitol. Missouri Democratic Party, they have a vice president who's some kind of Asian woman or something. She was there. And then there were protests all around the state, anti-Trump protests. So I'm guessing, Brad, that this is probably going to become a monthly thing. Now, a lot of anti-Trump people aren't really into cold weather. So as we get into November and December, they might not show out and show up, so to speak. I will point out that the great Mark Schlinkman of the Post-Dispatch interviewed a diverse set of folks. He talked to some old bat that was outside in South County. Her name was Sally Thomas. She was 64. He talked to a woman named Marilyn Sue Warren. She was 79. A guy named Drew Thomas was 77. A guy named Mark Lewis was 72. And a woman named Cecilia Nadal was 75. Brad, none of these people are as old as you, but they are seasoned citizens.
And they're all old white dudes and dudettes. What's the deal?
I don't know. Cecilia Nadal, she could, there was that tennis player, Rafael Nadal. He wasn't exactly straight up white,
I think he was. Wasn't he from Spain or something like that?
Yeah, but I guess it depends on I guess we wouldn't call him a traditional white bread Anglo Midwestern guy, though, would we?
Yeah, we would. I would.
Okay, well, you and I could be splitting hairs there, Brad. Anyway, I imagine next month, I don't know if they're going to have some kind of wacky branding for it in August, but it looks like maybe these folks are going to get together once a month and complain about Trump.
Do you ever, I don't think you probably go there, but the Sally Beauty stores, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they are owned by Asians, yeah.
No, the Sally Beauty store is owned by Asians?
Yeah, Brad, we've discussed this multiple times on the show. Sally Beauty Supply is owned by African Americans. I'm sorry, they're owned by whites, and they're publicly traded.
Okay. Do you know that they now have a new section of the Sally Beauty Supply?
Oh, do they, Brad?
Yeah, it's called the Trump section, where it's got all sorts of different color hair dyes. They've got blue and green and red and orange and all that stuff.
And if Trump makes you so mad
Right.
that you pull your hair out,
Right.
you could get a weave.
Right. Yeah, and Hans Wyman has a special Trump Derangement Syndrome section of his practice now, where if you've pulled your hair out, matter of fact, I heard him on the air the other day. Hi, I'm Hans Wyman. Do you hate Trump? You pulled your hair out? Well, maybe you go out in public and people say, hey, that guy's pulled his hair out because of Trump. Come see me and I'll put you back in the good graces of all the Republicans. What do you think, John?
I love it. And let me stand corrected, Brad. Sally Beauty, SBH, is not Asian owned. They're a traditional white company. I was thinking of King's Beauty Supply,
Yes,
which was
John.
huge in North County in the 90s. They were actually Asian owned.
The King's
And because famously they chose the name King's because the Asian folks said that they knew that the name King had a lot of equity in the black community. So if they slapped King on the name of a beauty supply store, they thought that African Americans would be more likely to come buy stuff there.
John, you and I, we have an upbringing that, sometimes, it's funny, I don't know if you do this or not, but every once in a while, one of my friends who was born and raised in North County, or born and raised in West County, rather, went to Parkway or Rockwood or some of the private schools, CBC or DeSmet. Every once in a while, one of my friends will call me up and say, Brad, you're a North County guy, right? I go, yeah. Decode something for me. And I'll have to explain it. Well, here's how the work. Oh, okay. I didn't have that part of my education by living in gingerbread land. You lived up in North County. You know all the ins and outs of this kind of stuff. You and I are the true multicultural people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think most folks would acknowledge that, Brad. I hold in my hands, thankfully, due to the subject of story number 2, I have a book in my hands right now called Black Street Speech. Now, I don't have to consult it because I pretty much wrote the book on Black Street Speech. But you know what, Brad? That reminds me of the main subject of story number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
Brought to us by the St. Louis Post-Dispatch via content creator Monica Obradovic. Here's the headline. Washington University scrubs web pages of DEI content. Quote, people are scared in higher education. It turns out that Washington University is removing language with the phrase diversity, equity, and inclusion from its website pages, Brad. It's no longer bragging about how it makes hiring decisions that discriminate against white women, white men, Asian women, Asian men, high-achieving folks. It no longer brags about bringing up the lowest common denominator and discriminating against success and meritocracy. Here's a startling fact. Now, once you get over a certain dollar amount, Brad, I'm not even sure how to estimate how these things go. And no, to answer your question, I don't know WashU's overall cash on hand, Brad, but I will tell you this, that WashU is a leading beneficiary of government research spending, and WashU received $732 million in funding from the National Institute of Health in fiscal year 2024. That made it the second highest recipient of NIH funding. Excuse me. No, I don't know who the top one is. I'm guessing it's an Ivy League school. But I'll repeat that, Brad. In one fiscal year last year, WashU received $732 million in funding from National Institutes of Health. No wonder they're going to their web guy and saying, hey, can you take that DEI language out real quick? Brad, I think this is wonderful, don't you?
John, I did the research for you. According to Wikipedia, as of June 30th, 2024, Washington University's endowment is $12 billion, which puts it among the top 15 university endowments in the entire United States.
Well, next time I get my monthly piece of mail asking me as an alumni to write a check, I'll be taken more seriously, Brad. I'll sit down. Now that I know they only have that many billion on hand, I think I may do a little reallocation of the Combest family budget and send WashU a little cash.
Can I tell you a funny story, John?
Please do.
You know, I told you this story about my mom and dad both graduated from Washington University, okay? And
you did, yeah.
My mom, who lived, for the remainder of her life in North County, used to go to the Alumni Association. And when she was there and they would ask people where they live, and she would tell them she lived in North County, the locals, who went to WashU, which at the time, back in the day, there were a lot of locals who went to WashU. I think, only 10% of the population, the student population of WashU is from St. Louis? Isn't that what it is now?
Very small number. Go ahead, Brad.
And they would go, you live in North County?
Yeah.
Like these were all Ladue folks and, in the 40 corridor folks, the Central West End and Ladue and Richmond Heights and they all shopped at Plastic Front and Back, that kind of stuff. And my mom went to what was the Gem? Remember Gem? Do you remember Gem? Or are you too young for that?
No, I don't. I remember Gem as a popular cartoon in the 1980s with a female lead. But what's Gem, Brad?
Gem was right down the street from Kirby Junior High, and it was a big warehouse store. It was like the original. It was the very beginning of the warehouse stores. It was like a very early generation of Sam's Club, and Gem stood for Government Employees Mart. And you had to somehow be connected to the government, quote unquote. You had to show a card and the whole bit. And
nice.
Yeah.
That's hey, he used to represent that area, Brad. The subject of story number 1.
Mr. Prangy? You don't even know who Mr. Prangy is.
No, I thought I was going to get a cue there.
No. Okay. Here we go.
The number one.
A story that looks like it had been written years ago in preparation of the sad day. William L. Clay Sr., civil rights leader and Missouri's first black congressman, dies at 94. Both the Post-Dispatch and St. Louis Public Radio had pieces, I think, written well in advance, judging by the names that were on these pieces, having written them, to remember the life and times of Bill Clay Sr., former congressman, represented North St. Louis County and St. Louis City for decades, Brad. He is the father of the man who succeeded him, Lacy Clay, colloquially known as Lacy Clay. And Bill Clay was a giant in Missouri politics. Brad, his aide, Pearlie Evans, famously one evening after a late night out, drove her car through the front of your barbershop and my barbershop, formerly Ronnie's, soon to become Spanish Lake Barbershop, crashed through the front window, destroyed the front window in the entrance of our barbershop because she thought she was turning onto Parker Road. And helpfully, the police escorted her home because she wasn't in much of a shape to drive that car. Anyway, Brad, Lacy Clay's father, Bill Clay, a giant in U.S. politics, one of the early leaders of the Congressional Black Caucus, passes away at the age of 94.
Did she really drive into Ronnie's barbershop?
Yeah. And Dale, who cut my hair from childhood until his retirement, was fond of showing folks the pictures. Yeah, Dale got a call one night and said, "Hey, can you come on up to the store?" The cops called them. And yeah, Pearlie had driven her car through the front glass and through the door, and it destroyed the windows and the entrance to the barbershop. So took a few days to clean up, and then, but she was the top aide to Bill Clay, so obviously nothing was going to happen in the 1980s to somebody like that.
John, refresh my memory. Wasn't Ronnie's barbershop in the middle of that strip mall? I mean, pretty much.
It was, yeah. So she came straight through the entrance. Brad and I are talking about Bell Park Plaza
Yeah, no
in
kidding.
beautiful Spanish Lake.
Right.
So she thought, apparently, I guess she told the cops that she thought she was making a left onto Parker Road when actually she was making a left into to the strip mall. And she floored it and hit the gas and ran right through the entrance to the barbershop.
Because I'm thinking if she would have hit one of the end caps, I'm thinking, okay, I can maybe see she misjudged the building, but it was right in the middle of the strip mall.
Yeah. Hey, can I tell the really quick Bill Clay story?
Yeah, go ahead.
So our friend Greg Keller tweeted this morning. I wasn't planning on sharing the story, but shout out to RGK for prompting me on this. The year is 1995. I am in high school, part of a high school program called Close Up. We make a visit to Washington, D.C. We all get to go to our congressman or congresswoman's office. I get to go to Bill Clay's office, and I'm part of a group of probably 30, 40 kids that are standing there. And Bill Clay is too busy to join us, right? Because he's doing congressman things. He has two aides in the room to greet us and say hi to us and talk about how Congress works. And they ask if anybody has ever been involved in campaigns. So a couple kids raise their hand, including me. And I say that I had worked for the gentleman who ran against Bill Clay the previous November. And one of the aides, he was as we say in North County, Brad, light-skinned. He was light-skinned. You might have called him red. He had freckles. He had that kind of skin tone. Anyway, he seemed amused by the fact that I worked for Bill Clay's opponent. And he said, why would you work against Congressman Clay? And I said, well, I thought Bill Clay probably represented the district well when he was first elected, but over the years, that district has become so gerrymandered. And Brad, that seemed to be the trigger word. So my light-skinned friend leaned over to a gentleman who was a little bit more dark-skinned, who immediately left the room. And moments later, Bill Clay arrives like a gift from God, Brad. Bill Clay walks in the room and said, I hear somebody here has a question about gerrymandering. And all eyes turn on me. And Bill Clay begins to give me a dissertation on the Jefferson Bank riots, on how people like me were keeping him and his friends out of important white-collar jobs at Jefferson Bank, and how it took someone what I might call gerrymandering is actually standing up for people who've been historically oppressed. And after this public scolding, Bill Clay thanked everybody and headed back out of the room. So that was my introduction to Bill Clay Sr., Brad. And you know what? As time goes on, I appreciate it. You don't let some punk little white boy come in your congressional office and talk about gerrymandering. You stroll right in, you put him in his place, and then you leave. So I never got a chance in person to see Mr. Clay again and to thank him for that. But as a 17-year-old, Brad, it was I guess you could call it a welcome scolding from a congressman.
John, how old were you at the time?
I had just turned 17. It was in spring of 1995. It was in January of 1995.
Okay, and who was the person you worked for who was up against Bill Clay?
His name was Don Counts. Yeah, and I had volunteered for him in the campaign and, written some letters to the editor. And we lost by only 30 points in that election, Brad. So it was a real nail biter.
Only 30 points. John, here's my problem with Mr. Clay Sr. is that the family, I am feeling bad about the family of Bernard F. Dickmann because of the fact that the Poplar Street Bridge, it was never really officially titled the Poplar Street Bridge. It was called the Bernard F. Dickmann Bridge. And my brother and I used to have fun when we were on the air as traffic reporters. We referred to it as the BFD because
the BFD,
right, the BFD, Bernard F. Dickmann. They renamed it. Well, see, now this is what's frustrating to me. Okay, back in the day, back in the 60s, they dedicated to Bernard F. Dickmann, who was, I believe he was a junior as well, too, who was one of the former mayors of the city of St. Louis. And then all of a sudden, they take his name off the bridge and they put somebody else's name on the bridge. I don't think that's right. You know, if you're going to name something after somebody, it should be there forever, don't you think?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good point, Brad. You can't just throw up a plaque and say, okay, we're renaming it every 10 years or so.
Right. Well, but see, nowadays, I've said this before, and my political friends always roll their eyes at me. I go, you guys are blowing it. You should be selling the naming rights to, it's the John Combest St. Charles County Government Center. Or
the Ameren Government Center.
Right, the Ameren St. Charles County.
Why wouldn't you give our folks at our friendly electric company the opportunity to sponsor it?
Naming rights. It could be the Bernard F. Dickmann License Bureau, or and the problem with this is we give away these naming rights for free. Like, what do you think Harry Truman paid for to have his the building down in Jefferson City called the Truman Building? He didn't pay.
Yeah, or that Kirkpatrick guy. He probably didn't even toss a couple dimes to the Secretary of State's office.
He didn't pay Jack Schmidt. You know what I'm saying? He
didn't pay Jack Schmidt. Right. Hey, Brad, no matter what happens, you're my favorite Dick, man.
Okay, it is time for us to take a break. And guess what's coming up in B Block, John?
My favorite jingle, boom, boom. My favorite jingle, boom, boom.
Here we go.